Well, good morning, everybody, and just want to welcome you to Munson and Brothers Studio, aka Hope Community Church office, and welcoming again our brother Edward Yeates, Yeates, of Father's Child Ministry. And if you were able to tune in the week before last, he and I had a great discussion, got tons of great feedback, a lot of people watching on social media, which fires me up. And so, I really wanted to get thousands of people to listen again, so I got Ed to come back. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it seems like we got super good feedback, and so we're back in the saddle again, and here to continue to just have a discussion about race relations in our country, in our community, and just one-on-one. And so. A lot of stuff's happened in the last since the last time we met.
Yes, sure have. The flag, Mississippi flag, is
Right.
actually is coming down, and right now I believe we're still waiting for the governor to sign the executive order, and I think they're in the process of looking for, as I read today, they're in the process looking for its replacement, and I think that's a great start, a great sign for Mississippi. It's just a great start and a great symbol that Mississippi is turning the page on our past.
Yeah, it represents. So you feel like there's a lot that it represents that's behind.
Yeah, part of that is the history of Mississippi. So you can't just say, okay, we're just gonna just forget about it. No, I don't think history shouldn't be forgotten. But I think we do have to, in a sense, move on from history and learn from history and move on and move toward the new whatever destiny God has in front of us. We're a new generation. Our generation is not the generation of 1960 generation, or the 50s or 1800s even. I mean, oh my God,
Right. So that doesn't represent who we are. Right.
That doesn't represent. So now it's time for a new generation. So a new start, new focus, in a new direction of the whole South, really.
Right. Do you feel like? I didn't see anybody. It seemed overwhelmingly everybody that I saw. It seems like the consensus was overwhelmingly for the change.
Yeah, the vote itself was 65-35, 85-35, or 65-35, something like that. It was, very much I won't say a landslide, but it was big. I'm glad that it went through the representatives that way, because remember in 2001 there was a vote for the flag in Mississippi, and the people voted to keep it. And if that would have happened this year, would it change? Would I wonder? If that was to happen right now, not last year, because if you would ask me that question,
You said it wouldn't.
No,
I would have said probably too.
No,
Bet you it would now. I would say it would.
You would.
Would you? That if it was popular vote, that it would be changed?
I'm not sure. You know why? Because there's a lot of black people that live in Mississippi, but there's also the demographic of the Mississippian African Americans, and this is what happened to when the vote, the law that came, the incarceration, 3 strikes you're out, under Clinton.
Bill Clinton, right?
Yeah. This was a mass incarceration.
Right.
And of Mississippi, there's 4 million people in prison because of that. Yes, it's a huge number, and most of them African American males,
Right.
which lost their right to vote. That's the next thing I would want to have changed. You serve your time, then
Right. You should
yeah,
be done. Right.
yes.
Right.
So you lose your right to vote. You lose your right to bear arms. You have to sign your name on the, on when you apply for a job. You have to sign your name
felony or whatever.
Yeah, and take one look at that.
Their job.
Yeah, they're gonna just throw it in the garbage can because and it's very hard for a person
To recover after that.
Yes. So I would most definitely want that to change. But just to stay back on the subject here.
Right. No, it's good though. It's looking forward to the future. It's good.
So the question would it change? I think far as today, it has a greater chance than any time for the public to vote it in.
I agree.
But I really think because there's a silent majority. I really think maybe I'm glad it went through the other way. I'm just gonna say it that way because I just don't know. And then exactly what I told you about there's a lot of African Americans live here, but not a lot that can vote, and that's
or that are voting. I mean, a lot of young. I wonder about black folks or white folks, young folks voting. I mean, you got to wonder who comes out and votes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you have voter suppression. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of issues there. But yeah, I agree with you. Here you got opportunity to vote on something that really affect you. Mm-hmm. How many will actually show up? And,
right.
That's
the hard part of democracy, I guess, is getting out for the vote. I do. Voting's always been it seems like that's always a little bit of a political thing. I think I agree with you. If you served your time and you've done what that is done, I mean, in the Bible, God says, all right, or he'll give you grace. But even in the law, man, when you had done what you had done, you were, it was paid. Mm-hmm. You were considered justified, and justified means brought up to even to clear standing. So I do see that. I think some of those issues, of course, that all gets politicized. Government issued IDs. I think that people ought to at least be citizens and have to show an ID. But I think the only thing that's funny about voting these days is it seems like there's all sorts of crazy. I mean, even the mail-in. I just can't support mail-in because I just feel like our elections are gonna. If we're starting mailing in ballots and stuff, I have no idea what. I mean, we were worried about voter trouble last election. Could you imagine if everybody could just mail in their thing?
Or just,
click in.
Click in.
These Russian folks they'd vote in everybody quick. No, so that brings up a good segue. Flag is one.
Yeah,
that's one.
Yeah.
What is the and you said what you'd like to see. So where do we go? Where do we do next? Do we? And I know the monuments and stuff are a big thing. I think that's a pretty probably an easy thing to talk about between me and you. But monuments and do you feel like continuing on with flag? Let's go monuments. Continuing on that, or okay, but let's get to the bigger fish. There's more important. I mean,
I'm with you. Like now, and then there's there's things that absolutely should be brought down. Some things, I mean, we can go too far.
Right.
I mean, just I see, Christopher Columbus and.
Right.
Some things is, I don't. I think we maybe stepping too far,
right.
but Confederate monuments.
Yeah.
boom. I just think that should be something that, hey, let's get rid of that, or
What about in public places?
yeah, just okay.
Because like in Shiloh or wherever, or Gettysburg, we can't go. I mean, that's where the battle happened. So that would be like where you would go to see that, right? Or
yeah, or cemetery,
but not
or
at the
museum.
not at the Capitol, not at the public buildings that everybody's going to.
Absolutely,
Right.
Absolutely,
Right.
and just, but what we have to do, not so get caught up with all the monuments and stuff like that, but the biggest fish to fry is policy. Is what started this movement, this 2020 movement, was what happened to George Floyd.
Right.
Okay, and the policies of police brutality. Okay, let's work on that first. Let's say, okay, what need to be changed? Well, number one, I do not believe in defunding the police
Right.
department.
That's
I
crazy,
don't
yeah.
think should do that, because you're gonna need them. Okay, your house burn is on fire. You got a burglar. What you gonna do?
Call a hippie.
All right. So, but what we need to do though, well, an officer who misuses his power should be held accountable.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Not just lose his job, but if he kills someone, murder, then he should be under the same laws as anybody else's murder.
Mm-hmm. Just like you would get court-martialed and tried for JAG or whatever
Absolutely.
in the military. Yeah, right.
Absolutely. See, the thing is the police and the prosecution, they working hand in hand, and that relationship is is needed, because the police have to their own cases, then they have to solve the crime and give the information to the prosecutor, and so that over time has become a
Club.
it's a good relationship. But what if the cop themselves are the criminal? But because you have this relationship,
Yeah.
you
Right.
see,
That's what you mean.
and that's what's been going on. We need something outside.
So like a third party. So it's more accountability
Yes.
added in there. Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, so police. So the police is a big one. Okay, let me ask you this, and this might get a little bit.
Yeah.
Is the, I guess I'm going to be giving my opinion. Well, I don't want to, it's just my opinion. To me, we've got to parse those issues, because it seems like police brutality is one thing and race relations is different. But right now, because you said what sparked the 2020 movement, George Floyd, police brutality. But it seems like it went right on over to black and white and massive racism, systemic race, And I wonder, especially with the political stuff, do we have a massive problem with blatant racism? Now, I know there's systematic and there's more subtle forms of racism. I think that's coming to light. But is it a police problem or is it a race problem? I mean, I know it's probably both, but it seems like one is bigger than the other to me, but somehow the other one is being lifted above. Does that make any sense at all?
You believe there's a police problem?
I believe that there's a bigger issue with police misusing their authority. I don't know, but I'm just saying I would lean towards, from my experience, police harass me. Police have done things that have harassed me and bothered me, as we've talked about. Somebody told me that 2 weeks ago or last week that the KKK was going to come up here to this monument. I don't know if you heard that last Saturday people were going to come to the monument.
The guy that got arrested for having his gun.
But I have never
never
seen one, a KKK person, in my whole life. I asked my dad; he had never seen one. Well, we've lived in Mississippi a long time. So, but if you get on the news, they're like, "Man, there's these white supremacists," and I'm like, I ain't never even seen these people. I've been in Mississippi, so I'm just curious if is somebody trying to spin it into more about race or more about police. And to me, it's because police. You said it. Police brought this all to to the forefront. And I'm sure it's both. I mean,
yeah, it's more a race, and here's why. I that was police brutality. Okay.
right. George Floyd.
George
Yeah,
Floyd.
absolutely.
Okay. And it was a white cop
And
that
it was
on.
race,
Okay.
right.
But it wasn't just George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
It was Breonna. It was the list goes on.
Right.
It was the other guy can't breathe. It was then the years of this. It wasn't just then. It just wasn't just police brutality. It's being pulled over just because she's
Stereotypes, right.
yes.
Right.
It's economic disadvantages.
Mm-hmm.
It's incarceration at unbelievable rates versus 10%, 10 to 12%, give or
Right.
take, of the population will make 60% of the prison.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lack of the social economic power.
Right.
2 times as much African American homes and Latino homes is 2 times less
In terms of income.
in terms of income as the white counterpart.
Right.
And then also the police brutality, which was part of this. So it wasn't just George Floyd, and it's not just about cops. I don't even like the word cops. It's more about officers, because cops doesn't mean you cop out. I respect officers.
Right. Okay.
It wasn't about officers, but it's more about
The system.
The system. You got, let's go with the systems. The judicial system, which is being that gives higher, enormous.
Sentences for the same.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Saw
Or
some of
less. There's a situation right in West Point right now. A person got like 50 years for some weed. Yes.
that. I didn't think that was illegal anymore. That's not.
Yeah.
50 years.
Go look at it. And it's just unreal. Some of the sentences that's put on us. Okay, judicial system, education system. All right, education system. African American boys and girls, but boys are more likely to not graduate 4 times as much. Why? Because I explained to you last time some of the things I had to do
working against you from the very beginning, right?
Absolutely, but just then also you'll see a high rate of boys too, and I had to say that because the system is not catered toward how boys think. Yes,
right.
And so you'll see more failure rate for boys, and they feel less competent at an early age because they're not able to sit down and hear the teacher. But that's something on the different. Then you go to the judicial system, education system, and the economic system, and you look at where's the jobs, and you see the high employment rate. Now, the president always brag about before the corona that it was down to 6%.
Oh, help Black Americans get jobs. And
yes. Now, statistically, that was good, but it wasn't the types of jobs that is being, is low salary type jobs, minimum wage type jobs, and something that I don't like is the idea of, this black guy there lazy. The most hardworking people is I know a single mom that got almost 3 jobs. She got 2 jobs, 2.5 jobs. And I say 1.5 jobs because she's something she just do on the side,
right?
So
on the weekend or something,
yes.
Right?
And she wake up, take the baby to school. From there, all day long, she may see him when she come back, and then she go ahead and back out to her job. She come back home at 12, 1 o'clock.
Go to sleep.
Go sleep. Wake up, do it again.
5 hours sleep.
Yes, that's not lazy.
No.
All right, so you have all those things. So it wasn't just because of that. It was just it was the last straw on the camel back, and that's what it was. It was more like we're sick of this, you know, and so that's what you see. Okay, how did this turn to racism? Well, because it was the build up to all that, and that just happened to be the last little straw on the camel back that says, God, it's it, you know.
Let me ask you, we've had things in the past like affirmative action. It just argues that it didn't work. And, you know, how do you, so what do we do that improves that's affirmative action on one side is a very good idea. You know,
what about integration? What you thought about integration?
How do you make
how when school was integrated, how do you think that made a difference between the races?
Well, I didn't live during that time. The stuff that I've seen shows that we integrated poorly because we should have integrated the teachers first, because that would have shown an example to the students. But instead, they integrated students and not the teachers. So all the teachers stayed white, and they kept being, and then that just made it harder because then it's just they were favored on some and not the other. But that was a long time ago, and that's just the book I read. So
well, you asked about affirmative, and it's the same thing. It's the execution was poor. It was a good idea.
Right. That's what I said.
The execution was poor.
But like that kind of. So where do we go? Is because I asked a couple of my friends. I was like, "Hey, what do you want to know? What?" And everyone I was like, "Man, what do we need to do? What do we need to how do we what do we do next? You know?" And so that's the great question, I think, is because I think a lot of people are ready to do anything, but I think because it's a big macro system thing, I think everybody just maybe feels overwhelmed. Where do we even start?
Well, how do you eat pizza?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Yeah.
Let's just tackle one problem. Let's get the rules and get the whole idea of this is fair. That's the issue here. Fair. What is fair? You know. Let's level the playing field. You know, if I give you, if we got a 100-yard dash and you own the 50 or 60-yard already, and we say go, who's gonna most likely win that?
Right.
Even though I'm faster than you.
You're big, but you might not be as fast.
I'm faster. I can move this body. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, right.
Who's gonna
No, that's fair. You're
okay,
right.
that's not fair, is it?
Well, no, it's not fair, right?
No. So I'm not saying to put you back at zero. You shouldn't do that. That's you work, but there's have to be okay. How can we make this thing where it works for everyone? You know, how can you work? How can policing works for everyone? How can the judicial system works for everyone? Not just certain people, not people who are rich, not people who are white. How can it work for everyone? Mm-hmm. How can the education system work for boys, not just for girls? Mm-hmm. How can it work? You know, that is the question. And so since we're tackling police brutality, then we have to set policies that work, not these fake policies just to say we did something. Right. And that's what politics does. They have, we did something, so they put these things out, but they really don't do anything. Mm-hmm. You know, they just actually make things worse.
More entrenched, more dug in.
Yes. Yeah, the bureaucracy, full of it. And and it doesn't really, it's not or the word it's not something you can't just do. You know, it's what the word I'm looking for, it's not realistic in a sense.
Right. It's kind of, yeah, I see what you mean. The what comes to my mind, I had to close on a house yesterday, and somebody asked about private mortgage insurance. And if you don't have 20% down on your house, you pay PMI, private mortgage insurance. It's about $80 a month. And the lawyer told me, he said, what's sick about that is that you pay your private mortgage insurance until you're at your 20%. But the banks don't tell you after you get your 20%. And they let all these people keep paying that stuff for 10 months, 11 months until it, and they never even pay them. They never even give it back to them. And I was like, how can they do that? It's like, this is the way the law does. So the big banks just push down a little bit more on those people. And I thought, man, that's a good example of a system that you're already capitalizing on poor folks because they don't have, and it's fair enough, you got to insure that mortgage somehow. But so you're going to have to pay an insurance to make sure you can afford that mortgage. And then they're just going, it's like taxes that are not really fair. And I wonder about the same thing. And it bothers me. I drive down 45 and there's cash, there's paycheck
Payday,
thing,
yes.
man. It's ripping people off, man.
Yeah.
30%. And that's a bunch of white folks probably doing that.
30 is black too, but 30%.
That's wrong, man.
Yeah.
We're taking advantage of poor people
Yeah.
on that. And I just don't think that's Christian.
Yeah.
I don't know how people live with themselves. Whoever you are, quit taking up our good places on 45 and let some good businesses get in there. But it seems like somebody told me this a few years ago. It was during the last presidential election. They said 9 out of 10 American problems are economic problems. Would you agree that that's the case for the black man? That if those things weren't, because you could afford a good lawyer if you had some money, you could, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if
I don't get spiritual. 100% problems are the hard problems.
Fair enough.
Okay.
There you go.
That's
good answer.
Problems are
good
hard
answer.
Problems.
That's why I got the head on. Keep it spiritual. Keep it spiritual.
But practically, money answers all things in the world, right? So money is a big issue. Right. You know what I'm saying? The lack of money or the love of money causes a lot of problems, right? So, but that's a hard issue. Mm-hmm. You see that? It goes back to your heart, loving that, you know, or wanting something that you can't have, or doing it in the wrong way to attain it, you know. But so economics plays a big role. You look at poverty, you know, whether you white or black or in a distant country, you'll see the same issues, you know, and poverty is a big part of those issues. Poverty plays role now. This is something this counseling term trauma. Mm-hmm. Trauma is when something happens to you, and
you don't know what to do with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of trauma in poverty.
Right.
That comes with poverty.
Right. I've heard that.
And that has a psychological effect on how you see the world. Mm-hmm. All right. So in most cases, African Americans are a great majority of them live in poverty or have lived in poverty.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that is a psychological effect. Now this is we talk about things that at first we're talking about the things that are happening to African American. Now this is the things that we do to ourselves.
Right.
Okay, because of our mindset of and what happened through trauma that caused you to fear someone, that caused you to think in a certain way.
Make an agreement. Just, I'm never going to do that again. Or I'm never going to trust that. Like an internal agreement. Yeah.
Yes. Or I'm not going to try that.
Like a hardness of heart.
Yes. So even with taking advantage of opportunities, let's say, look at the stock market, right? Mm-hmm. And say, okay, if I put my money in there and how can gain back.
Right.
Well, if you felt like people already cheated you, you're not going to put your money in some
You have to
an
give it to them,
investment.
right.
Yes, you think they're going to take your money.
Mm-hmm.
So psychologically, you keep yourself away from things that could increase you. You know, it's opportunity for you too, but because your mindset, you don't do it. Then what happened? We're talking about black on black crime.
Right.
You know, you look at Chicago, 600 people dying. Wow, every year. I mean, that's like more than we have in wars. What's
Right.
going on? Psychological effect, you know, and then you talking about really trauma. How can you see us? I think last night I heard a 5-year-old, 10-year-old got shot in the leg. What kind of effect would it
Never
have
get
on
over
that?
that. No. Never forget that.
Yes. So
That's significant. You're right about that.
yes.
That's significant.
So poverty plays a big role in crime and just the mindset of people. When you because money, you're exposed to more stuff, which gives you more opportunities, more examples of how things can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard this years ago, I think, to support your point. If someone who's poor and desperate will exhibit like almost all the same qualities as a person that's mentally crazy, because it makes you crazy. Because if you get backed into a corner, you'll do crazy stuff. And so a lot of times poor folks, and even folks on the street, homeless people, they're considered mental health issues and stuff. But we might be crazy too if we were living on the street and you know, didn't have anything to get anywhere. And how can you blame people for that? You were going to ask you had a couple questions earlier.
Yeah, here's the question, I guess, because that's come from the flag. Okay, what do you think the difference between nationalism and patriotism?
Well, I would look at those words without knowing at the dictionary. I would just say nationalism means. Well, that's a good question. Patriot. Whenever I think of patriots, I think of people that love their country and wear red, white, and blue on July 4th and shake the hands of veterans when they see them. And they're, a lot of, I hear it seems to be wrapped up in military almost. I get this sense of patriotism and military, and I don't know how that. It just seems like whenever we celebrate it, it's all wrapped up in the wars that we won. Nationalism. I don't really like nationalism. I think about nationalism as maybe just being this is my thoughts on it. Nationalism is just maybe an intellectual word for people that like their country too. I guess I would want to put it in the same as patriotism, but I don't like the word nationalism because I feel like as a world we're a global village now. We can't do nationalism where you sweep your side of the street and I'm going to sweep my side of the street and we're all just going to live here. I feel like we're in a world where you're a neighbor and I'm a neighbor. So I feel like nationalism now should be a little bit negative. And I don't see where we all become the United States so that we can beat up the rest of the world. But that's kind of the thing I get when I get nationalism. It seems like, everybody stand up straight and everybody salute and everybody do this stuff or you'll get in trouble. I don't know. Those are bad answers, but
that's fine.
You got some reasons for that.
I did look at dictionary.
Right.
So they are similar, and they usually it used to be synonymous,
Okay.
Synonyms, but it's not anymore.
Okay.
And naturalism is more about it's about your country, and it's everything about your country, without the exceptions of the bad things. Okay, it's like I'm proud to be American, and we do no wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's kind of I don't care nationalism.
Yes.
Okay.
Patriotism more about the values of the country.
Okay.
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 And yeah, saluting to, you know, as I have become more patriotic. After, you know, I worked with the I counsel people at the base,
Right.
and because of that, it really have made me more patriotic because I
to understand their lives.
I understand their lives, and I have love for them. You know, I feel a connection with, and so I feel more patriotic. So when I hear the song, and then you know at 5 o'clock every day on base, you know you got to they play the song, and I'm part of that.
Yeah.
I feel more patriotic.
Yeah.
But also the values of being a patriotic is of being a patriot is you challenge, you stand on your rights. Okay, let's look at Colin Kaepernick. Okay, Colin Kaepernick took a knee at this at the national anthem, which brought a lot of issues.
Controversy, right?
His purpose was to show support for police brutality, black issues and stuff like that. But it turned into a statement as it was going against the flag and going against the military.
Yeah,
Okay?
it was politicized, right?
Yes. So the nationalists was like, how dare you? How dare you do this against our flag? Because in our song, because this is, you know, we are Americans, and
you're supposed to blindly pay attention. Yeah,
but it was a patriotic act because a patriotic
cared about it.
Yes,
that makes sense. I get that. And so a true patriot cares about the values, cares about the blood and the guts of the country, not just the face, the lip service.
Yes. So let's hold true to these values and bring them forward. You know, we said we are the land of the free, home of the brave, and that it is our right to have happiness, right? You know, we're endowed with this the right of
life, liberty, pursuit of happiness.
In pursuit of happiness, right? That's mean for all people.
Right.
Okay. So I'm patriotic. So I'm living out these values. And I'm pushing these values. That these are the American values that we uphold.
And Kaepernick was saying, we don't have liberty and justice for all. So until we do for all. Yeah. And I think he's coming out smelling like, I think he's coming out smelling like he's starting to look, it's starting to be turned back around, and he's starting to, I think, be seen from more of a patriotic standpoint. I think Drew Brees might have brought this out with the thing that happened with him, and maybe it's just white folks being dense, but what I think I learned, I think I learned it from Drew Brees, because, man, it bothered me. I thought, man, Drew Brees, everybody likes Drew Brees, you know, what did he say, you know? Yeah. And he just said, I just don't think of that when I stand up for the flag, and the teammates got mad because they said, it's not about the flag, you know, Drew, it's still not about the flag, you're not getting it. It's not about disrespecting that flag. It's just about the only way you could get anybody to pay attention was to do that. And I think it clicked for me. Oh, wait, you know, he actually sat at first, but then he thought that was disrespectful. So taking a knee is a more respectful way of, like, you know. So I get it now, and I do see it. But I did for a little while. I did, and I'll be honest. I listened to sort of, why would you do it during then, and why can't we, you know? And I do think it's a fair thing for people to argue, but I don't think in the end that's a right thing to argue. So I'm glad that it happened the way that it has. I saw the other day where Hill at Mississippi State said he wasn't going to play if they didn't change the flag. And the intersection of politics and sports is interesting. But I don't know that you can't do anything about it because those platforms are so significant.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And as you know, Fellowship of Christian Athlete, that's why we was,
right.
You know, we just say, okay, people look up at athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a Christian, let's show those values of Christ as being athletes, and it's been very impactful. That's what me and you met at,
Right.
as fellowship Christian athletes. Mm-hmm. And so what happens even there? So that show you the power
Right.
of the athlete, and also that the power of your voice. It's, that being an athlete, you have that platform, and a lot of people able to see or hear. Mm-hmm. And I think Colin did a great job, great thing, and he made a difference. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean a person who's not an athlete can't.
Right.
Radar lay member, or insignificant person. The other day I was talking through my Facebook thing about Bartimaeus, and nobody knew about who this outcast guy, but he called on the name of Jesus, and he's in the Bible. So,
right.
and forever
he made it.
He made
he
it.
made it in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody can make a difference.
Right.
Anybody is willing to, but you got to put yourself online.
Right. Right. And stand up for the things that I always have said. You got to lead in the thing that God cares about. Because if you get focused on if you rely on your priorities up with God's, then you're going to start living a life that matters really quickly. Because your leadership's going to matter. Because it's going to be leading in the things of God. I think that's what George Mueller did. He saw widows and orphans. He said, well, God says he's going to take care of widows and orphans. And then he just started holding God to that word. You said you're going to take care of widows and orphans.
Yes.
Where's the food? And the food would come. You ever read about George Mueller, man?
I read it, man.
George Mueller.
He was awesome. Wow.
It's affected me.
Yes. I read that book. I love that book. To see all the wonderful things God, the faith that he had, Yes.
It's a beautiful thing to live by that faith. We'll do this again soon.
All right.
I'd love for you to pray us out.
Yes, sir. Father God, in the name of Jesus, thank you for my friend. Lord, bless him, strengthen him, and Lord, continue to guide us. And I pray that for those who see this episode, Lord, that you will use this time in their lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks, Ed.
Amen.